Brahmacharya, what an interesting concept. A concept that was first derived in Hinduism and yoga that refers to the practice of celibacy or self-control. It is one of the 5 yamas, and you can think of yamas as moral principles within that Vedic philosophy, and it was first described in the book Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, or Patanjali, however you like to say it, and directly translates as self-restraint or continence. In a more broader sense, you can think of the pursuit of brahmacharya as an opportunity to keep one's mind single-pointed towards spiritual development and keeping that one-pointed mind pure and chaste. It's very, very strict. In this way, it is believed that it is a key in the element to maintain physical, mental, spiritual well-being, and is often associated with the development of higher knowledge in spiritual and also in occult circles. The key theory behind sexual continence, brahmacharya, is that it allows an individual to focus their energies on the pursuit of spirituality and God realization, rather than allowing it to funnel down into his inner, lower, and darker nature and remained attached to what the Hindus called Maya. So this realization of God is so intrinsically related to this notion of detachment. If you are attached to the earth, if you are attached to Maya, then you will fail to realize that it is just that, it is Maya. Maya is a direct translation to the word illusion. And another way you can think of Maya, as the Hindus described it, is the notion that we live in a matrix in more modern Western circles. So all these modern tropes, barriers, ruses that prevent us from getting access to God comes in the form of promiscuity, sexual addiction, pornography, soft pornography. All of this material is an attempt to keep you trapped in illusion and not actualizing and realizing the notion, the presence of God in your life. And the more we feed these agents of the matrix, is another way you can describe it, our attention, our energy, the more that we give them power, the more that we, in a real sense, create slaves of ourselves, and we keep ourselves trapped and attached to the sensory and fleeting realm of pleasure. There is a higher idea that the individual that is walking the path of the brahmacharya is harnessing the body's intrinsic and intuitive creative energies, and that is the force behind some of the transformative benefits that you hear when an individual begins to walk a path towards realizing the higher self, the Atman, God himself. So I mentioned this notion of a path. So charya means path and Brahma means God. So to become an initiate in the reconciliation of your sexual energies is to begin to walk the path towards God. Another way you can describe it is the path of the divine, of divine realization. I alluded to it previously, but this idea has been perpetuated in occult circles, and I mean occult in the sense that this is this is hidden knowledge that only a few get access to in their lifetimes, if any. And an individual who wishes to develop powers in the realm of the occult, things like precognition, clairvoyance, it is rumored that in order to even have access to these abilities, one must stand firm on a foundation of self-control, sexual restraint, and sexual power. Rudolf Steiner was an individual that was very developed in this way, and he said that the unification of these sexual energies leads to what Steiner and the occult called spiritual organs, the development of spiritual organs in that man, in the initiate. Simply put, energies begin to accumulate dependent on where you place them, where you put them. If you are constantly opening your eyes, focusing on the senses which move outside of yourself, you never got the opportunity to develop any kind of inner sensory in intuition. And that is exactly why our spiritual faculties have diminished so quickly over the last century, is that we're always focused on things outside of ourselves, and they're beginning to atrophy. Our spiritual muscles are beginning to atrophy, and we're not allowing ourselves to come back home and get access and fully exercise the faculties that we need in order to communicate with the divine. It's very interesting, this notion of developing spiritual organs. There was a great man called Swami Vivekananda who left his body at the age of 39, and it was said that he developed something called the Medhanadi, which is a astral nerve that gives profound intellectual abilities to the individual, particularly intellect, particularly memory as well, which only forms after 12 years of unbroken celibacy. Some of the texts I've read regarding Vivekananda were really incredible. It was said that he could recite pages and pages of texts, of books, of scripture, only with very minimal time with that text. So you could give him, your science book. He could have a little flick through, put it down, and you could ask him any question on the subject and he'll be able to give you the answer. He was very, very, very spiritually evolved, intellectually involved, physically evolved. And he saw to it that his work here on earth was done at age 39 and he left. Now, I'm going to say something quite controversial here, is that Nofap is dangerous, it is damning, and it is not Brahmacharya. It is repression and suppression of your sexual energies and powers, and it has its roots, in my personal opinion, in some kind of psychological sickness, or it will eventually develop that way. I make no affiliation with Nofap because it is steeped in shame and guilt, and I would not have you do the same. There is nothing insidious about the sexual reflex. It is a gift. It is your very creative capacity. It is the most powerful tool in a man's arsenal if he is to realize God. Yet there are dangerous communities like Nofap that would have you suppress and cut yourself off from this energy without teaching you about what it is for, without teaching you the fundamentals of it, without sharing with you how to channel said energy into creative, enlightening, spiritual, mentally, physically developing pursuits. To be pure of mind is to convert Virya, which is otherwise known as life force, into Ojas, which is radiance and vigor in mind and body. And this is the bedrock of sexual alchemy. That word alchemy is not a mistake and is in fact very, very accurate to what's happening during the process of sexual transmutation. One must, in a way, purify his mind and burn away the existence of degenerative thoughts and impressions that you have accumulated in your time here. The same way you purify a metal by burning away the impurities the individual must exercise to achieve a one-pointed mind. The tools in order to reach such a state of liberation lie in the ones that I've perpetuated now, in the past, and will continue to perpetuate on this channel. Meditation, yoga, pranayama, breathing practices in general. Mind follows breath. If you want to control your mind, you have to first control your breath. That is the secret in mastery of mind, it's mastery of breath. More often than not, or most often than not, pardon me, if the mind is steeped in lust and infatuation over the senses, then breathing is erratic or non-existent. You have no control, you have no jurisdiction over your ability to self-regulate. So you have to bring your attention back to this mechanism of breathing through it, coming back to center, grounding yourself, being present with what is happening in your body in every given moment. That is how you discipline the mind. That's how you make it sharp. That's how you make it your servant as opposed to you becoming its slave. So gentlemen, sexual alchemy is found first in the mastery over your breath. And like I always say, these are just theories. Take what is valuable, discard which is not, and I'll bring you something else very, very soon. Take care.